Hey, loves, welcome back to part two. And if you watched last week's download, part one, you can go back to the YouTube channel and or go back to your email if you're on my email list and you can watch part one and catch up on it. But if you did watch part two, you already know that I left my Denver mastermind with my soul expanded, my strategy even sharper, along with a couple other things. So this week, we're going to go even deeper, and I'm walking you through three things that will change your leadership, the way that you approach your company, as well as some things in your life and AI, hopefully forever. And so, one of those things is the three levels of leadership from Peter Sheahan. And then I want to take you through the ladder of abstraction. And this was basically the tool that he walked us through that he's used to sign $55 million consulting deals. And he's like, this is how you can sell anything to anyone that's actually in alignment. And it's one of those things that because integrity with sales is so important to me, that I really want to share this tool with you because it's how to gain a mutual understanding and common language with your clients and with your potential clients versus just using like a cold call or a hard sales type of approach. And then the last thing is from Dan Martell, and it's basically how to up level your AI. How does all that sound? Okay. Let's take a deep breath and let's begin. So, first off, I have some notes here and I'm going to read a couple of those because there's quotes and I don't want to misquote them. So, Peter Sheahan said the levels of leadership, um, as far as what I'm going to quote him directly around the levels of leadership. And he said, there's no such thing as a market leader who is not a thought leader. I want to say that one more time and have you write it down. There's no such thing as a market leader who is not a thought leader. And so, what I took this to mean is the more that we, instead of like just trends and following people, like if you're following trends and if you're going after the algorithm, you're always going to be following people. And so, in order to really connect with your clients and be a leader, you actually have to lead. And so, being a thought leader, being on the cutting edge, being a pioneer in your industry is super important. And that typically comes from trusting your heart and trusting your mind and being unique versus just following everybody else. And so he laid out these three distinct leadership levels. Level one, personal performance. And this is where you learn how to lead yourself. And this is why I love the way that we've designed Defy, is because it starts with a life operating system. And by doing this, it allows you to build rhythm, hold boundaries, and do what you say you'll do. And so that's personal leadership. And my biased opinion is it always starts from within, even building a multiple seven-figure company. It starts with how your relationship is with yourself. Okay. Level two, organizational performance, how you lead others. And this is how you scale your systems, your team, and your container that carries the vision. So this is how you go from doing to being and holding for the magic. And then level three is market leadership. And that's how you lead the conversations. This is where you go into that thought leadership. You become a force. You're no longer responding to trends. You're setting them, you're shaping them. You are the trend. So you are the person that everyone looks to in your industry for what is trending. And the truth is that every level requires a new identity. And I want to go into that a little bit deeper in a second. I'm just checking my notes here to make sure that I don't have anything else on the three levels of leadership. But I want to go into the identity piece while I am explaining the second concept, which is the ladder of abstraction. Before we go there, ask yourself these two questions. Where am I leading from right now? Which level? Level one, level two, level three? Where can I get that improvement? So that's all part of the first question. And then the second is, where is my identity still holding on to an older level of performance? Okay. So where am I still holding on to an older level of performance, right? Or holding myself back, self-sabotaging, operating from a lower frequency. Okay. Now into the ladder of abstraction. And I want to come at this in two separate ways. So one is I want to just show you this ladder of abstraction. And it's just a screenshot that I took of what I mapped out in my own business. And this is what Peter had explained was the abstraction levels. So one is very, very specific. And then you actually, so think about this reversed. You go all the way up to number 7, which is where, there's this universal truth. Okay. And so what he was saying is that when you're having this conversation with your clients, typically what we're talking about is the tool, is the thing. We're very specific. We're talking about the VIN number, right? And so Peter explains this ladder of abstraction or he asked us to think of it like this. You know how most people try to explain or sell what they do by focusing on the thing, right? And this is what I was talking to my Defy group last week is like, we oftentimes, because we're uncomfortable putting ourselves out there, we're uncomfortable, selling us or selling our services. We talk about the dashboard. We talk about the tools. I have a client right now that is just like an amazing thought leader in the wellness space. And she talks about the breath work and she talks about the yoga and she talks about energetics. And it's like, how do we focus on, instead of a feature or a call or a dashboard, that's like trying to sell a car by describing the VIN number or talking about the VIN number. It's actually irrelevant to your client, the tool, the specific thing, until they understand that real magic. The reason that people say yes actually lives higher up in the ladder, that universal truth, right? And so the universal truth within Defy is this freedom, right? And it's this permission-based freedom. And that's this thing that most everybody, whether you're an entrepreneur, as you get down from level 7, which is freedom, down into the lower levels, then it's like, well, are you a coach or a service-based entrepreneur in a healing industry? Like that's kind of getting more into the specifics. And then it's like you can get all the way down to, the weekly calls and define all of that. But we can also zoom all the way out into, is freedom important to you? And at that point, at that level 7, which is the universal truth, you can get most people nodding their head and agreeing with you. And so again, like I wrote out this example for Defy, at the bottom of the ladder, we have the very specific, like we go into the business operating system, we go into the business optimization system, we have this dashboard, we talk about your calendar, how to refine your offer, AI templates, legal templates, like all of these things that are given to you, daily accountability. And then in the middle, we can talk about self-trust and sustainable revenue and clarity in your values and your offer. And then at the very top, what I had just like drafted out was rewriting these generational narratives about what women are allowed to have, whether that's wealth, whether that's freedom and permission, and how easily we can have it. And it's like, I could have that conversation with half of a restaurant because it's a universal desire, a universal truth. Whereas if I stood up and asked half of the restaurant if they want daily accountability in their business and growing their entrepreneur coaching business, like that's not going to be a universal truth. And again, from my life, if I'm giving you an example on if I'm speaking and I'm giving a keynote on burnout, what I'm really doing is helping leaders rewire how they think about energy, identity, and values within their company, because getting everybody to agree how you think determines what you're actually allowing yourself to receive and perceive. And it's like, how do you, moving up the ladder of abstraction, how do you get more heads nodding? What are you actually selling? And you can go all the way up from freedom all the way down to dashboard. So I want you to take just a couple seconds, whether you pause this video, whether you come back to it, to write down using what I just shared with you, like what the levels would be for you. And the second piece of this that was just so fascinating to me is the identity piece, right? And the mindset piece, because here's where it gets real. The ladder isn't just about how we can explain what we do. It's also how we unconsciously sabotage and free ourselves and are able to achieve and obtain what we're here to receive. So here's where it may sound like in your life is, I just need to fix my captions, right? And that's like that's level 1. That's like VIN level thinking. Or it may sound like, oh, I need a better funnel. And so that may be like thinking about the engine, like slightly above that. Or you might say, like, I'm not getting the results that I want. What's wrong with me? And maybe that's stuck in the mechanics. But your next breakthrough isn't at the bottom of the ladder, it's at the top where the identity lives. And so I wanted to share something else with you, that this is my tool that I've refined, and it comes from another tool. Um, on these levels. However, when I'm working with clients, and what we talk about in Defy is like, most people talk about, oh, well, if I change my job, or if I move, if I just like move to California, everything will be great. And not that I don't love California, obviously. It's like I've had this with me for a while, where it's like everywhere you go, there you are. And so I want to remind you that environment is at the bottom of this, right? When we're talking about, oh, I just need to fix my captions. I just need a better hook, right? Identity is actually at the top. And so by focusing on who do I need to become to hold what I want, you're actually able to shift the revenue, the rhythm, and the results by having the behaviors, the actions, the thoughts come from the identity, the beliefs come from the identity. And so instead of saying, oh, I'm behind on content, right, which is down here, that's in a behavior or an action, you're actually going up to the identity piece and saying, I'm becoming a woman who trusts her voice and shows up to be seen. And what kind of content do you create from that? Are you ready for another example? So instead of my launch failed, right? And that might be a thought. So you're in the middle of the pyramid. We're going, I'm being refined for my next season, not rejected. And something else that I say to myself, and I share this with my clients, is this is happening for me, not to me. Okay. And that is a belief. That's a belief that I have because of the identity that I hold. Or instead of, I don't have time or money or energy, you can then believe in a belief or adopt the identity that I've outgrown the version of me who says yes to everything but herself. Right? Do you see how it's not just a better strategy? It's actually an identity shift. It's like a full identity shift, and it's a transformation versus thing below beliefs, behaviors, thoughts, environment. And change is small. Transformation lives in identities and beliefs. And that's where you get the quantum results that everyone's talking about right now. Okay. So, lastly, I have Dan Martell. This is the third part of what I wanted to share with you in part two from the mastermind. And he was talking about something that I teased a little bit last week in part one, which is, how do we use AI to document our genius instead of replace it? And so he literally pulled out his phone and he used AI to summarize this model that he was talking about. And we just got to like, he wrote it on the board, and it was just this energy of innovation. And the key takeaway wasn't like, look what AI can do. It was like, look what becomes possible when you stop accepting that it has to be hard. When you stop seeing AI as a tool and see it as a collaborator. And he's like super, super strict on some things and just the way that his brain works. And he's kind of non-negotiable. And so he said a couple of things I wanted to share with you. If it doesn't add speed, don't use it. How much of your business, like how much of your tasks and your to-do list and all of that would be gone. Don't outsource your brilliance, systemize it. And this is something that I absolutely subscribe to. So in Defy, in our group, I create these templates, but in every template, it's like inserting your information into it so that you're not just having like putting a template into AI and having it spit out exactly what it would spit out for me or for Mindy or for Harmony. Like, it's actually spitting out your brilliance, and you're training it. And you're also, this is something that we talked about this week on our group coaching call, was like, this makes you a better leader. This makes you better at delegating. This makes, interpersonal and professional, this makes you a better communicator. And so my loving challenge for you is where are you still taking too much time, taking too much energy, taking using money to pay for things that you could train AI to do, to be able to systemize your brilliance. And then my second question here is, where are you playing small with your tools or your thoughts? Right? Okay, I'm going to wrap this up because I know this has been a long part too. And I want to know, reply to the email. If you're watching this from my email, then go ahead and reply to that email. If you are watching this on YouTube and you just happen to find this corner of the internet on YouTube, drop a comment and let me know. Also, check out the description of this video so that you can make sure that you don't miss anything else going on in our community by joining the weekly coaching list, which is the email that I was referring to. So, lastly, whether I'm coaching inside of Defy or standing on a stage somewhere in the world, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that my job is to elevate the room. My job is to hold that permission and hold that freedom, hold that Defy energy, right? Design everything for your life. That's what Defy stands for. Because I believe, my biased opinion is, when we rise up the ladder of our thinking of who we believe we are, we then rise in our results, our revenue, and our receiving. So let me leave you with this. I'm not here to sell you a better VIN number. I'm here to walk you up the damn ladder, because what you really want lives at the top. So let's go get it. All right. I'll see you in the next video.